hit the floor like a hammer on steel. Every word you said had a blood red feel. We took the long road through the grit and the flame. No crown on our heads, but we carried the name. Hands on the rail, heaven too far. Then you cracked the dark like a bent guitar. I heard the ground shake under my name, and I knew that night would never be tamed. Sovereign minds, we don't bow, we don't break.
It's Sovereign Minds, the podcast. There we go.
I heard Leslie good that time.
Yeah. All right. Today's August 7th, 2026. We're down here at Mountaintop Media. You can go to mountaintopmedia.com. We're brought to you by the Mountaintop Media. And we're down here in the epicenter of freedom. Yeah, there you go. Today is August 7th, like I said, 2026. It's podcast number 179. And our title today is Silence is Violence.
Yeah, that's it.
No.
Yeah, that's it. Just ask him.
So, our word of the
The
week,
week.
our word for the week
Week 2 is violence.
is violence, because, you know, this whole thing gets so confused by so many different things. It's ridiculous that you can't even figure out what is the meanings of the words.
Well, we know what they used to mean.
So, you know, let's play that clip from AOC first and start there, and we'll work our way into this. This is from the great Maze Moore. And this is a classic example of how these words are being twisted on purpose to convey different meanings. And then we started doing some research on this, and we found out that these words meanings started changing around 1967 or something.
Started in 1960, and then it just progressed after that.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you change the meanings of the words, we got into it, then you start changing, you'll see. All right, so let's play this first, and then we'll go.
Right-wing incitement of violence against trans Americans in this country, because they cannot let go of this obsession with fixating violence and inciting violence against trans and LGBT people, in addition to immigrants, in addition to women of color. This is a party that cannot pick on anyone their own size.
No. Okay, so
Wow.
So I'm not inciting any violence against black.
And I'm sorry, only right-wing people are violent?
And who's been shooting everybody lately?
That's what I'm saying. It's all the right-wing people, right?
So the trans community hasn't had a problem with shooting people here lately or anything like that, right?
They're not involved in,
So we looked this up, and this struck me. We're not inciting violence, but they've changed the meaning of the word violence. And if you do this over time, these people are actually changing the meanings of the words by the continued use of them, because the dictionary only reflects the use of the word in society. So if you use the word incorrectly enough, it actually changes the meaning of the word over time in the dictionary.
Yeah, we would have never thought that. I thought the dictionary was based upon something else, not with how many times you use it and the contents that you use that word in.
I looked it up. I just braved it. You grokked it.
I grokked it.
Okay, and it said violence. Behavior or treatment in which physical force is exerted for the purposes of causing damage or injury. Violence of the writers, intense force or great power in a natural phenomena, violence of a tornado. And then the third one, extreme or powerful emotion or expression. I was like, what? I don't know. That's not violence.
Right.
I mean, violence is physical harm of some sort or physical force. And so violence is defined as the intentional use of physical force or power, threatened or actually, now threatened maybe, I don't know if you can threaten violence, but that's not actually violence. Just threatening it is threatening violence, but it's not violence.
Yeah, it's not actually committing violence.
No. Threatened actual against oneself or another person or a group or community that results in or has a likelihood of resulting in injury, death, psychological harm, maldevelopment, or deprivation. So I was like, that just, Now, this comprehensive definition, when you added the part where it's not about actually physical harm, it's about emotions and expressions, you
And
know,
social, economic, or political systems. You got to put that in there too.
yeah, because that started changing. That wasn't in the 60s when we were growing up. That violence meant violence. So you hit somebody head with a hammer, that's a violent act. Now it's like, oh, you don't like the way that my social structure is for redistribution of the wealth, and now I'm violent.
Yeah,
That's
because I want it to be.
that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
This comprehensive definition established by the World Health Organization.
Yeah, that was like in
That's not a-
2002 when they started doing that one.
That's not a tip off, is it? Distinguish violence from actual harm by emphasizing intent and broadens the scope beyond physical acts to include threats, power dynamics, and acts of omission or neglect that cause psychological or development damage. Now, that's not violence. You just change the whole meaning of the word.
Yep.
If you wanted to change it to that other, then you say the other. It's omission or negligence or it's causing physical damage, but that's not or psychological damage or mental development impairment. That's not violence. That's what it is. It's those things, but it's not violent. If you add violence, it changes the meaning of violence. Okay, so I'm like, wow. Destructive action characterized by lack of empathy and involving communications, manipulation, coercion, or punishment. See, so we started doing a little. This
Yeah,
kind
we
of got
kept
us.
digging more and prompting AI to come up with different things, and it's amazing
Yeah.
what it says. And then, like I asked it, when did this happen? When did this start happening? And it says, so it shifted away from purely physical definition in the 60s and unfolded over the following decades, and rather happening like at one specific time or anything. So they just slowly worked at it.
So in other words, if I say the sky is gray enough, that even if it's blue,
Yeah, and if everybody in the community starts saying, or the
starts
majority
agreeing with that,
starts saying, yeah, the sky is gray today.
then the sky being gray has not, even if it's blue, is now gray in the dictionary.
Yep, the
because
dictionary
everybody
says.
decided that gray is blue.
Yeah, because the dictionary says so. So I picked it up, and then so the next person that reads it goes, look, it says the sky is gray.
Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just say the sky is blue? Okay, so
Why you want to change?
I said, why do Marxists change the meanings of the words? Because that's where it's coming from. All the meanings of all these words is coming from the Marxist ideological things that it's all about oppression and class struggle. Okay.
I just asked him, do you want to change the definition of words in rock?
Okay, so I asked it, I said, why do Marxists change the meaning of the words? And it says, the claim that Marxists change the meanings of words is a common criticism, often rooted in the observation that Marxist theory employs specific analytical framework that reinterprets common terms through the lens of class struggle, power dynamics, and historical materialism. That is doublespeak gobbledygook that professors
Word
taught.
salad.
It's word salad. It talks crap. It's like, but why would you do that? What arguments are you reframing or redefining? Okay. Because violence, while the common definition focuses on physical harm, the World Health Organization, influenced by structural analysis and Marxist theories,
Again, there's that WHO.
expanded this to include structural violence.
Yeah.
This-
Now we keep incorporating more and more things into what the meaning of violence
we can
is.
we can say a word and make it mean anything we want to
Yeah.
bolster our argument.
Yeah,
And-
because now I can do economic, structural, psychological, ideology. I mean,
so
pick
if you
pick
hit
one.
me in the head with a bat, I can say that's violence. But now if you say something that I don't like, I can say that's violence.
Yeah.
And so
Or
silence.
me just thinking that I hit you in the head with a hammer is violence.
What
now.
if I don't say anything at all? Then
But still,
silence-
silence could be.
silence would be violence.
It could be. Yeah.
If you're a moron.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
or
remember
you've
who
been
we're talking about.
brainwashed or gaslit. Why would
Or
they
you become
do
a lunatic.
Yeah, or you're that's next week. That's next week. That's your word next week. Lunatic, political lunatic. Anyway, so Critique. In everyday language, criticism means to point out faults. In Marxist critical theory, critique is a specific method of analyzing the underlying ideological assumptions and power relations that sustain a system. That is double gobbledygook speak so that if you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand the power of words and how they can the harm, the chaos that they can cause, because if you confuse the meanings of all words and you don't understand any of the concepts, like, well,
You
freedom
believe
means
whatever you're told.
you'll do whatever you're told.
Yeah.
Freedom means slavery. Oh, well, you're
Okay.
free. I'm a slave, but I'm free because they said
Well,
that,
yeah,
that
but
means
you wouldn't
the
know.
same thing.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know that you were a slave because they changed the meaning.
Yeah. Exploitation, commonly used to mean unfair treatment in Marxist in economics, it has a precise technical meaning: the extraction of surplus value from workers and capitalists. Now you know when you're listening to these idiots, they're speaking Marxist. They're not
Yes.
speaking common sense or actually
Oh,
using
yeah.
the definition of the words. They're speaking Marxist to each other, and that's why they understand each other, because it's gobbledygook and they understand gobbledygook.
Well, you don't have to understand a whole lot,
So you can say anything you want and make it mean anything you want, which means that nothing has any meaning.
right? And
Okay.
that you can do whatever you want.
So we went a little farther on this, and Marxist theory posits that language itself is part of the superstructure of society, blah, 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 gobbledygook, gobbledygloop. Conclusion: whether one's view is this changing of the meanings of words or deepening the so it's not necessarily changing the meanings of the words, it's deepening the analysis. It's like, it's stupid.
Well, and then on mine it says, what I like is it says, definitions change because people change how they use the words. And then it says, in quotes, today this word means something new.
What?
Yeah, so I can just make it,
So-
meaning something new.
So we got
What
AI.
would you like it to? What would you like it to mean today? Because that is what we can do.
Well, and so it's confusing for us. I asked AI. I said AI. I said AI. Never mind. Will this eventually create chaos? And it says, whether the Marxist reframing of language will eventually create chaos is a subject of intense debate, and outcomes depending on whether one views of these changes as necessary corrections
Oh, jeez.
or as destructive subversions. No, they couldn't. This would be, let's change the meanings of words so they don't mean what they meant before and they mean whatever we say. And that's a necessary correction, but it's not necessarily destructive subversion.
No.
Wow.
Well, I guess that depends on who's defining the word of the day.
Our arguments that it leads to chaos and division. Critiques argue that the defining fundamental terms erode the shared reality necessary for social cohesion, leading to confusion, conflict, and, oh yes, authoritarianism.
Imagine that.
Breakdown of communication. Critics contend that the words like violence, racism, democracy are redefined to mean structural conditions rather than specific actions. It becomes impossible to have a productive debate. Now you know why we're talking to each other back and forth, because we're talking words and their meanings as they were intended, and they're talking words and meanings the way they want it to be.
Yeah.
Whatever their argument is, so they can post arguments that make no sense except to them. Is it on purpose? It says, if an opinion can be labeled violence, then physical defense or state suppression against that opinion may be justified. In other words, if you're silent and I say that's violent, I got the right to slap you around.
Well, maybe.
Okay? If you don't know what the Second Amendment is,
Yeah,
I might
was
get
gonna
away
say,
with it.
Well, maybe, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
Depends. Again, no, not going to happen here.
So it causes perpetual conflict is what it's doing by defining all social interactions through lenses of oppressor and oppressed. In other words, everything's a white supremacist. It's all because of the white supremacists that we don't have any money, that we don't have any food, that we don't have any property, because it's not that we didn't work, went to a Marxist school that educated us stupid beyond our own intelligence, and taught us that blaming all of our problems is someone else's fault because we're the oppressors, and they're the oppressor because they're white, isn't racist at all, because racist doesn't mean racist anymore. It means whatever we say it does.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
it's only if you're white.
Yeah.
Gee, that's not going to cause any problems, is it? All right.
And I'm not white to say it. Mhm.
So-
Well, I asked it if on Grok its definition, the changing of definitions lead to chaos in it, or at least serious confusion, conflict, and breakdown in community, especially when the changes are rapid, contested, or driven by ideology rather than the natural usage.
So, Grok is trying to mince words here, and oh, I'm not sure if they use it as intended this way.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Meanings, meanings because those meanings are tools of hegemony designed to make capitalist exploitation seem natural or voluntary. Talk about gobbledygook. So, then I asked it this. I didn't ask this. I told it this. I said, these are just tools by the Marxists to gain power over useful idiots. The view that Marxist linguistic strategies are deliberate tools to manipulate useful idiots for power is a central critique from the anti-communist thinkers, though historically the historical accuracy of the specific term useful idiots is debated. So we're going to debate, that whether Lenin called everybody a useful idiot, because that's where it comes from. It's attributed to Lenin, all right? He described Western sympathizers who aided the Bolshevik cause as useful idiots because he was just using them to gain power, all right? We don't need to worry about the origin. Does it really matter? Okay? But this is what it comes down to. Confusion as a weapon. By stripping words like violence, freedom, and democracy of their common meanings, critics contend that Marxists create a fog of confusion. In this environment, logical arguments become impossible, and those who cannot navigate the new definitions are dismissed as ignorant or complicit in the impression. In other words, if you say anything I don't like, you're the oppressor.
Yeah, and you don't have a brain because what you thought the word means isn't what the word means now because I changed the word and you don't know what I changed it to. So you're stupid.
This is why they end up killing each other at the end of the day too, because you can never quite get.
You can never get a handle on anything because everything changes.
Everything is subject to interpretation by who's ever interpreting it.
Yeah,
all right?
who's ever at the head of the class at that day.
So we got isolating dissent. When the definitions of violence include structural conditions, a critic of Marxist policies can be labeled violent. Oh, I don't agree with you. He's violent. Where did this come? Haven't you been seeing this a lot lately? Like, I don't know. Like, if you don't agree with the trans community, you're now a violent person?
Well, yeah.
Because their definition of violence is, you don't agree with me.
Yeah. That's not violence?
And if you don't say anything,
you're still violent.
You're still violent. Because you're white. Because we said that wasn't
because we are saying
racist,
that you are.
because we changed the meaning of racist to mean white. Okay? See where this ends up? So, isolating dissent. The definition of violence includes structural conditions. A critic of Marxist policies can label violent simply for defending the status quo. In other words, you like being free, that's violence because that's the status quo. Because
I say no. I say no. You can't have freedom.
That sounds like a reasonable argument.
Yeah, you can't.
Isn't it?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. So now we're starting to dig through the conditions here that we have been implemented. Is this planned? Is this, I don't know, when Lenin did this back in 1913 and they changed all the meanings of the words and this became Marxist doctrine and this is how they take over a country by class warfare and the oppressors and the press and everything is a class struggle. That's just all an accident, right? And then the guys end up getting in control and power by doing this, and everybody just needs to shut up and go back to work, or you end up in the gas chamber, or shot, or Siberia. Read
whatever.
Read Solzhenitsyn. I mean, come on, they were there. All right. So, simply for defending this rhetorical move, isolates opponents and justifies silencing them, effectively manipulating supporters, the useful idiots, into believing they are defending peace when they are actually enforcing conformity. Like, wear the mask, even if it's not good for you. Take the shot, even if it doesn't help you. You won't get COVID, even if you do. And what we're doing is we're not enforcing science. We're enforcing power. and oppression because you,
Control.
if you don't agree with us, you're violent.
Yeah, so we have to take control of you. Make you understand how
And the
this
useful
works.
idiots in the meantime are sitting there going, well, we're so virtuous and good. I mean, wow, we can't get
They
any-
like us.
Yeah, and we're like Stuart Smalley, and I'm really smart, and
Yeah.
you know, whatever. So it's just stupid. So, and they are idiots because if you believe this and you have no common sense because they changed the word to the meaning of common sense is no longer common. It means that you have no sense because we decided that that was violent. All right. They believe they are defending peace when they are actually enforcing conformity. The Trojan horse effect.
When they're actually inciting violence.
Yeah. Chaos turns to violence because nobody
Yeah.
can agree on anything.
Yeah.
You owe me. No, I don't. I'm working. Shut up.
Yeah.
Pretty soon everybody's arguing about over
Yep.
stuff, and it's all about the redistribution of the wealth. You give the power to the government to tax everybody, and they're controlling both sides of the equation because if they take it from you and give it to you, well, I don't have to give it to you, but I can take it from you. And then I decided I'm taking it from you and keeping it all anyway. And it's like Joe Rogan's finally waking up. Well, they can't just steal everybody's money. No,
Yeah.
that's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they do till there's no more money to steal. And then, guess what?
Yeah, then you open up you open an
Then
island
they
up.
come after you.
Yeah, called Cuba.
Yeah.
All right, so the Trojan horse effect. Critics like those at New Discourses argue that the terms that like inclusion and equity are Trojan horses.
No.
They sound universally positive. Oh, we got to have inclusion. We got to have DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity.
But they're starting to, a lot of people are starting to pack up on those and go, you know what? Maybe
You don't
we
have to
should
do the job. You don't have to know what
we
you're
can
doing.
rethink this.
You just have the right skin color or the right political slant, and you too can be a useful idiot.
Yeah, if you follow the program, it's okay.
They sound universally positive, though.
Oh, well, that makes all the difference in the world.
Workers of the world unite.
Yeah.
What? So,
Again,
I
WHO.
think that was like that was Robin Williams back in the day. Say, what if you're a communist, gay? I don't know what it was. Labor union guy, a communist. You know,
Oh,
he's like workers of the world unite. What?
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
who?
This has been going on a while.
I'm who?
And so you see that we've been through a generation seeing this develop over time.
Over more than one generation, actually.
Yes. All right. But they sound positive, appealing to the useful idiot. Oh, I love everything should be fair. It's equitable.
Yes, I feel warm and fuzzy now.
See what equity means now, because they've changed the meaning, is not equity that everything's fair. It means we get to steal from one person and redistribute it to whoever we feel like, and we're the government. And once you have the power to tax, you have the power to destroy, and you have the power over everybody. And they believe in the Second Amendment as long as they are the only ones that have the guns. Okay, but their redefined Marxist meaning demand radical structural overhaul and abolishment of traditional hierarchies, leading to, I don't know, outcomes of the average supporter never intended, like you're not free anymore, shut up and go back to work. It's the gulag if you don't obey. You get shot, hung, or sent to Siberia if you don't do what you're told, because that's the other side of the effect, is once they gain power. And
That's where they go.
You're seeing that right now in the Democratic Socialist agenda. I mean, they don't care. Once they get power, do you think these people are going to be nice to everybody?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They don't
So-
pick and choose. They don't care at that point. They got the power. That's what they wanted. That's why they did what they did.
So the word of the day, violence, is really silence.
It's looking that way.
Well, what do
And
we have?
violence isn't the only word that they've changed. I mean, look at, there's many words, which we will be going over more and more.
More and more, because if you don't understand, if you don't understand words, and then words have no meanings, and you have no definitions, then it's just a salad that is chaos. Well, remember the Tower of Babel?
Yeah.
Boom. They exploded. Nobody could understand each other. It was total chaos.
We just babble.
Yeah, the babbling brook. All
We
right.
just babble.
So our next thing is going to be, let's talk. I got this letter from Kevin Kiley in my email. I'm on the wire there or whatever service it is. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick so I can find it. And
Paid for by Kevin Collins of Congress.
yeah, of course, I'm not a big, huge Kevin Kiley fan. I've seen a few things I don't like, but at the same time, I think there's some thing to pay attention here on this letter. Okay, so this letter is okay, non-existent train to nowhere. Last year I introduced a bill to cut federal funding for the high-speed rail. We eventually got legislation to that effect signed into law. Newsom wasn't happy.
Imagine that.
Gee, Newsom wasn't happy. He immediately, and I just saw a clip on Newsom saying, and we should have been able to pull that up. Maybe we can do it here. I'll try. Where he's basically saying that the train to nowhere, or no, I think it was on that other clip that you pulled, Leslie. We'll have to play that because he's saying the train to
This
nowhere.
guy, yeah.
He's saying that the train to nowhere will never get done. Basically.
Well,
Not
that
in our
was the whole
lifetimes.
idea. Yeah, that was the whole idea, him starting it. Because if you gather the money for something and you throw it at it, you don't have to finish it.
It's not about the train. It's about the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so there we go again. High speed rail. Doesn't mean high speed rail. It means corruption. We just changed the word from high speed rail to corruption, and everybody's happy now. So the state, it turns out, had to admit that the deadline to buy the actual trains. So this has all been a boondoggle. This has all been corruption. Of course, there are no trains, there are no tracks, no passengers. The entire project from LA to San Francisco was supposed to be completed by 2020. Gee, last time I checked, it was 6 years ago. It was 2020.
I just asked, how long has a high speed train been going on? High speed rail has been since 64, but that means something.
Well,
else.
it might
But
be,
yeah,
maybe that
but
was
yeah.
that was
But
a high
I
speed
know,
rail.
but I just had to say that. But it hasn't been that long. But it's been quite a while since they've been working on the high speed rail in Southern California that goes nowhere.
So meanwhile, both Newsom's chief of staff and Xavier Becerra's have now pleaded guilty to corruption charges. Interestingly enough.
No.
So we go to that other post on Kevin, Kiley, and Ashley. Well, let's play. You want to play that? I don't know. Let's do this, and then we'll play that other clip, Leslie. So
They're going on for 18 years.
18 years. Sentencing postponed again for Xavier Becerra's. Isn't he running for something? Governor or something? I think.
I think he is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think he's running
Yeah.
for governor. So his chief of staff, Gus McCluskey, pleaded guilty in his sentencing. If I click on the Ashley, yeah, it was right there. No, you're there, I think. Stolen campaign funds. It says sentencing was supposed to be for August 6th is what I had.
And then they changed it now set for October 1st.
Except that's different. Okay. So I went to Grok or Brave or whatever, and I said, McCluskey has pleaded guilty to in federal case involving Becerra's stolen campaign funds. So evidently there's Becerra, so there's campaign funds, and I said, so he pleaded guilty on November 2025. Okay. To conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud for siphoning $225,000 from Becerra's dormant California campaign account.
So he got sentenced in 25.
No, he pled guilty.
Guilty. Oh,
November
okay.
25.
Okay.
He was supposed to. Sentence has been postponed for August 6, 2026. Well, I looked at the calendar. I looked at my watch and the calendar and said, "Well, today's the 7th." So I then had to ask it, what happened at the sentencing? On August 6th, Sean McCluskey was sentenced in federal court in Sacramento for his role in the campaign funds fraud scheme. But McCluskey received 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. He was also ordered to pay the previous agreed $225,000 in restitution to Xavier Behavior's campaign committee. The sentence was lower than the maximum of 5 years due to his cooperation with federal investigators.
Imagine that.
His guilty plea to conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud. And his co-defendant, Greg Campbell, was sentenced on the same day to 24 months in prison in order to pay restitution. The third conspirator, Dana Williamson, who pleaded guilty to additional charges, including tax fraud and lying to FBI, is scheduled for a separate sentencing hearing on September 17th, 2026. Stay tuned. And it also has a little note here. Xavier Becerra nor Gavin Newsom were charged with, they're not charged with any wrongdoing in the case. But his cooperation with federal investigators has me curious, because they haven't been investigating Gavin Newsom for anything lately. And didn't his chief of staff kind of like turn on him a little bit lately?
But
and
they have been
these guys are
investigating
getting
him.
they're getting lighter sentences. Is anything going on here? Is there smoke and fire?
Well, it would be nice if Newsom got some charges against him, but they have been looking into him.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what everybody's mad about. We're starting to see some, we got the crowd out there. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. I think really what they need to say is no big names have gone to jail or perp walked yet. But
Not
that's
yet.
not necessarily true. Fauci just got referred to the DOJ criminally.
He hasn't, but he hasn't had any charges. But the states are all lining up to do something. They say.
I've confirmed that. There's Florida and another state that's already filed the paperwork to charge him.
Oh, really?
To get they're going after him for this. And then you got Comey. So, and now you've got Thune and the other guy, I'm trying to think of his name, Cotton, Tom
out
Cotton.
of Texas?
No, Tom Cotton, I think is Oklahoma.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
They're blocking the release of information on
Fauci?
no on the let's see, I lost my train of thought here. Hold on.
Sorry.
They're blocking the release of the information on John Brennan. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff going on here. So they're trying to get the information from Thune and Cotton that they won't release on Brennan, and so and then they're also the two that have been in front of the SAVE Act. So, gee, maybe these guys are compromised or they're on the same team. We'll see.
Well, it's
what
hard
happens.
to tell exactly what's going on, but there's a lot of moving parts when you stop and look at it. Everything that's going on, I mean, investigating and different information that's coming out, it's just constant. And it's on all different areas. So it's hard to tell exactly what effects are happening.
So I
sometimes.
pulled it up. Beyond toxic, more why Thune and Cotton are allegedly withholding Crossfire hurricane documents from investigator. Investigative reporter John Solomon, we'll have a little bit from him at the end, just broke news on Wednesday that Majority Leader John Thune and Senator Tom Cotton are blocking DOJ investigator Joe DiGenova, I guess how you say it, from obtaining transcripts on John
Those are in the
Brenner's
documents.
interviews with the Senate Judiciary and Intelligence. See, so things are happening here. They might not be happening as quickly as we like, but I don't. We'll see how it goes. But
Well,
I think
you never know all the time what's going on because they're not going to always. We don't necessarily have first-hand information on a lot of stuff
I
either.
think what people are mad about is no big people are getting rolled up yet, and that might be coming. We'll see. But there are a lot of things happening. You got the Haitians being deported.
That's what I mean. There's a lot of moving
There's a lot
parts.
of stuff going on here.
Yeah,
so
there is.
we'll see how it goes. But
You've got Rob Bonta and his wife trying to make it to where you can't investigate crimes through Mia Bonta's bill.
yep,
Yeah.
And now, if you look at this one, this is an Assembly Bill 1608, which makes it to where the Inspector General can withhold certain records from the public about the high-speed rail train.
Yeah,
So-
see, they're trying to do, especially here in California, we know from other things, as soon as you start getting to a certain point, then they try to pass laws or bills to counter-react it before you, and then your hands are tied.
because it's not a Marxist takeover and silence is violence. Go ahead and play that clip that you had pulled up, and then we'll go to the John Solomon one. Let's play this right now.
Maybe.
We get sidetracked because we're dealing with just an absolute flood
You know that
of information. Go ahead.
California high-speed rail project that we all know about, the one that is the most expensive infrastructure project happening in the world today, the one that is on track to be the third most expensive infrastructure project in the history of the world? Well, we just found out why Rob Bonta and Governor Newsom quietly dropped the lawsuit against President Trump and the federal administration for that $40 billion that was supposed to come from the entire country. And that is because the state of California did not satisfy the terms of the contract. That money was supposed to be used to buy the actual trains that were supposed to go on track. I believe that they refuse to buy these trains because they know that this project will never be done. And they don't need the actual trains. What they really need is just to say that there's a project out there. This is an old playbook, one from the former speaker, Willie Brown. Willie Brown wrote an article that talked about infrastructure projects and how you just never tell the people how much it's actually going to cost. But when they approve it, you dig a hole so big, they can't do anything but fund it. There was a video that came out of Governor Newsom from 2014 talking about the California high-speed rail. He claimed that they wildly overestimated the ridership and manipulated the numbers.
We wildly overstated the ridership projections. We manipulated some of the revenue projections.
So why would you buy a train that you never intend to ride? They didn't. And there's a reason why. Because Governor Newsom himself admitted that this project will never be done in our lifetime.
Doubt very much. We're the most optimistic assessments of the next decade. The facts seem overwhelming that this project is not going to materialize in our lifetime.
And instead of taking action, he is now appointing his closest allies to the High-Speed Rail Authority, an individual who used to be in charge of homelessness in San Francisco. We know why. This is because this project is used as a justification to tax you more and take more at a time where we should be focusing on real infrastructure projects that lower the cost of utilities, lower the cost of groceries, and make transportation easier than the richest state in the richest country in the history of the world. They are just trying to find ways to take more money from you. Make sure you're paying attention, get involved, and let's fight for the future of California and revive the California dream.
Wow. Thanks, Leslie. Hat tip.
Yeah.
She pulled that up. She's our I don't know what she is. She's our
all around gal
she's
that
our
does
all around
everything.
gal. That's it.
That's it.
She's awesome.
She's at the top.
All right. So
So no problem here, folks. Just move along.
So we got this last clip, and this is on the election stuff, and this is on Benny Johnson's channel, and John Solomon just came out with some stuff. Now, John Solomon, if you're not following him, is like he's an investigative journalist par excellence, second to none. But we got. There's this, so the election was hacked, can be hacked, or was hacked by the machines. They got the absolute proof, but the plot sickens even more so when you get to the end of this little thing that he talks about here. But go ahead and play it, Leslie, if you can.
Yep. So beginning in January of 2020, the same time they warned about the vulnerabilities of the voter registration data, the intelligence community unanimously, albeit secretly, assessed that American voting machines could be compromised by 5 foreign powers. There are 5 foreign powers who could take the known vulnerabilities of the machines and potentially flip votes. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and they knew what the vulnerabilities were at that point. Nobody acted in the Trump presidency, at the end of Trump 1, or at any time in the Biden presidency to close those vulnerabilities down. And that becomes even more alarming when you realize 9 months after the first warning in January 2020, in September 2020, the CIA detected Venezuela taking a voter machine that worked a lot like American machines. It wasn't an American machine, but it had a lot of the protocols that we use here, so it was relevant to the United States. And they were able, in a controlled environment, to swap out votes. Now, it wasn't in a real election. It was a test. It was in a test environment. But they were able to get through the encryption, take out the votes that were filed, put in fake ballots and fake numbers, and then send them up to the central repository as part of a test. That was a red alarm inside the intelligence community, but you know what? Other than reporting it internally secretly, nothing changed. And so we went through the 2020 election, the 2022 election, and the 2024 election with those same vulnerabilities sitting there. We basically stuck a glass chin out and told a foreign power, come on and punch us, because we haven't told the states We haven't told the president. We haven't told the Congress. Now, to date, I've not seen anything, Betty, that said that a foreign power exploited and flipped votes. I haven't found a document yet that says any votes have flipped in any election. But it is gross negligence for our intelligence committee to have left that glass chin unfixed for 6 months. Just because a foreign power didn't do it didn't mean it was the right thing to do. We should have hardened our defenses. That's why we have an intelligence committee. They left us with a glass chin for 6 years, and that is no longer in doubt. That is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's another one that came true.
So instead of talking about the actual capacity of a foreign power like China or Russia or Venezuela to rig our elections or to seed agitation movements against our democracy, I'm blown away at how correct we were saying that BLM and Antifa and all of that was foreign funded, and that was just
exactly what the documents show.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yes. So way to go. You're literally working on behalf of the Ayatollah, right? If you were posting the black squares. Great job, everyone. However, our intelligence agencies were thrilled and excited in order to talk about foreign interference when it comes to President Trump and to say that he's a Russian agent when he fired James Comey.
Can you believe that? You can't make it up?
You can't make it up. And James Comey, weirdly enough, he told us this in his Oxford comma tweet. ALX, I don't know if you can grab that and we pop that up.
Yeah,
but anyway, just really quickly, that's a big, a story that also broke this week. Really quickly, could you touch on that and then please tie it into the grand conspiracy, please, and the grand jury, and how do they intersect?
If we want to talk about election interference, the single largest proof that we now have is that the single greatest intrusion on American democracy has not yet come from China. It could someday, because of the vulnerabilities we allowed to exist, the voter files being swept up. It hasn't come from Russia, hasn't come from Iran or North Korea or Venezuela. It has come from our own intelligence and law enforcement agencies who have not.
We know the history and what happened after that.
Yeah.
But the big takeaway, besides the fact that BLM and Antifa were all funded by foreign governments, and these guys are the useful idiots like we talked about before, thinking they're doing such good for everybody, or they're just stupid and evil or whatever. Maybe they know they're working for them, or both, all the above.
Yeah.
But our intelligence agency, and you could put up the 8647, Leslie, anytime you want if you got it handy, because that was Comey. After he got fired and now he's up, and they weren't trying to subvert our own government. They weren't the ones that were helping manipulate the elections.
No.
They would never do that stuff.
No, it was some
would they?
foreign. Ask them.
Yeah.
They just kept saying Russia, Russia, Russia.
Yeah.
The whole time.
So we'll end with a quote from Ronald Reagan, and it said, "The trouble with our liberal friends is that they're not that they're ignorant, even though some of them are. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. The interpretation of that, the quote suggests that liberals possess significant information, but much of it is misinformation or factually incorrect rather than a lack of intelligence." And we're seeing that every day, where you got people that are college graduates that think and they might even be highly intelligent, but they've been given so much doublespeak and changed the word meaning so much that they've created chaos and confusion in their own minds, and they've been so gaslit, they don't know what ends up. They think
They
they're
don't know
saving
what's
democracy while they're implementing communism.
Yeah.
And they don't understand.
And when they figure it out,
They don't understand the hazards of what happens
yeah,
when
exactly.
you do
I was
that.
going to say, if they ever figure it out, it's going to probably be too late because you've lost everything and now
Well,
you become a victim.
Fortunately, there are people that have common sense, that understand the meaning of the words still in America, that understand the value of freedom in a constitutional republic, and we're willing to fight for it because we're the last bastion on earth that can do this. So,
Well, hopefully the young ones. There is, the Gen
There's hope.
Zs are coming around.
there's more of us than we think and know.
That's
All right.
true.
I think that's the end of the podcast today. Government is not reason. It is not eloquence. It is force, and force, like fire, is dangerous servant and a fearful master.
Till
And
next time.
silence is not violence.
Next time.
Next time. See you later.